Hello everyone, my name is Eileen and a very warm welcome to my first advanced course for making crepe paper flowers. In this course, I'm going to take you through how I craft this beautiful orchid kokedama using 180 grams Italian crepe paper. Now, I would say that orchids have always been challenging as they are quite unlike any other flower. The basic flower has a center and petals going around it, but for the orchid, it's something that's more structural. So you need to craft it such that it's sturdy and holds up against gravity and the petals do not droop down. Hence, with this course, I'm going to share all my secrets, including how I wire my petals so that the petals do not droop down, how I add color details to the lids of the orchid, and how I make my kokedama base, which includes how to wrap it with a handmade moss that we can paint and fringe ourselves, and how I use air dry clay to create an anchor so that my kokedama base will stand well and will not topple over easily. If you're not a fan of working with clay, that's totally fine. The kokedama portion is optional, and you can always display your orchid in a vase or pot as a substitute. However, I do love how the round base balances out this top-heavy plant, and it does add a lot of charm to this as a display piece. Good news, if you're based in Singapore, I do have kits available to purchase with everything you'll need, and you can find more details in the link in the description box below. Okay, so let's go over all the materials that we'll need, and I'll be doing it rather quickly as a lot of the information required, including the color codes, will be in the material list PDF. Alright, so let me show you the colors that I'm using today. We are using 180 grams Italian crepe paper, which is the thickest kind of crepe. Now, you don't have to use the exact same colors that I'm using, just similar colors will do. For instance, I'm actually using 2 shades of green so that there will be a contrast between the front and the back of my orchid leaves. But if you prefer, you can just stick with 1 shade of green. Likewise, you can just choose 1 brown shade, and I'm using light brown and then painting it dark brown for the moss to have kind of like a painterly effect. But you can just use a dark brown if you have it and skip the painting altogether. I'm also using a white shade for the roots of the orchid, but you can also substitute this with any other light color like cream or vanilla. For basic tools, you'll need a sharp pair of scissors, white craft glue, something that dries clear, a wooden skewer or toothpick that will help sculpt our orchid petals, and wire cutters or pliers for trimming and shaping our wires. For coloring, I use markers in yellow and maroon. I love these zig markers because they work well on crepe paper, and I use them to create this color detail on the lid of the orchid. I also do use some white acrylic paint for the detailing on the flowers, and of course you need a paintbrush for this as well. A small fine one will do. For coloring the leaves and kokedama, I'll use a watercolor palette. And I really love palettes like this one because I don't need to squeeze out paint from a tube. I can just immediately access the paint. A white brush would also be very helpful in picking up pigment and covering a large surface area. For this project, I will mainly use greens, browns, and blacks. An optional item would be Mod Podge, and I'm using the matte version here. And I find it very helpful for adding a slight touch of gloss to the orchid petals and leaves. Having another white flat brush would also be really great for spreading the Mod Podge with. For florist wires, I'm using 3 thicknesses, number 28, number 24, and a number 18. Now, you don't have to use the exact same gauges as me, but generally it's pretty good to have one really thin one, like this 28, which is thin and flexible and perfect for wiring the petals. Then you'll need one of a medium thickness, like this 24, which is stronger than the 28 and great for our leaves, roots, and stalks. Finally, you'll need a really thick, strong wire, like this number 18, to use as our main stalk so that it can actually hold up all the flowers at the top of our orchid plant. If you're making the Kokedama base, you will need air dry clay. This is the brand I'm using, which is called Dowie. It is usually available in different colors, but that's not very crucial since the air dry clay will be fully covered up anyways. Now here's a preview of what we'll actually be making using the air dry clay. It does take about 2 days for this anchor to dry. So you'll see in this course that I'm actually going to start with the air dry clay and make the anchor first before proceeding to make the rest of the orchid. It'll also be really wonderful if you have a stash of crepe paper scraps lying around, as this will come in handy when we want to fill out our Kokedama ball. You can have these in any color since they'll all be covered up with the layers of brown moss. Alternatively, you may also use scrunched up tissue papers, anything that's soft, to use as the filling. Now that sums up pretty much everything we'll need for this project. In terms of time, I would recommend breaking this course over a few days, maybe 2 days to make the flowers and leaves, and then 1 day to wrap the Kokedama. Please remember to take your time, take it easy, and when you're ready, I'll see you in the next chapter.